You also get to see a cat take a bath. Yeah, he's cleaning his weird foot, which he does for like 7 minutes straight up. He takes its cleanliness very seriously. In the top left, as the blue Terran, she is Deity. In the bottom right, as the red Protoss, it is PSevenGab. Sweet Reef on the NA server. Loser's pick for both map and server choice, now that we have that little complication. Which I'm just now realizing that Vriska should have gone to Europe, but she didn't say anything, and she knows the rules because she's the admin. So oopsie. But yeah, so Sweet Grief, unfortunately, she's gonna have a bit of a difficult time here. It's already kind of weird to Europe, which is closest to her, and then North America is farther away. That's how the world works, you know? But that's what we decided to do. Default NA East, which honestly, I would reconsider putting on default Europe because most of our competitors are in Europe, but oh well. Too late now. We're almost done with the Banshee tournament. That does favor Deity ever so slightly here. First map goes to her, and then if she were to have to be taken to the 5th map, it would go to her map choice as well. Well, I guess it depends on how they do it. Well, anyways. SCV Scout sees everything as normal. Cybernetic Core was placed down for that Nexus. And that will be scouting to confirm that. I have not really seen Deity's PvT. I don't know what she likes to do here. I don't know what her weaknesses are. And I haven't really seen PSevenGab's PvT. I'm imagining I did, just maybe against like uneven opponents, so I didn't really put much stock into it. So this is going to be a new experience for me, as well as you guys. It is best of 5, though. Oh. I hit number 4, that's why I didn't change. Is there a prize? There is a prize. There's also a Matcherino to increase that prize pool. If there's no additional money added to the Matcherino, first place gets $67.50. 50 cents. But there's usually extra money added, so we've had to, we've awarded up to like 140 or something to first place in previous tournaments. Unfortunately, an SCV has just lost his life. And the second SCV is here. It was late to save its buddy, and now is just forced to try and finish his buddy's work. But that won't be happening either because the Adept will come in and that wouldn't have canceled. Or that wouldn't have finished the command center. I think it would have been one of those like 50 out of 50 situations. So quite annoying here for Deity. Reaper is going to come back. Marines do a lot of damage to the Adept before it decides to leave, so it does take quite a bit of damage. Not quite into the hull health. The hull health. The health. But that was a decent enough defense. Now the command center does finish up, and no extra supply depot was needed. Although it was a temporary... Okay, nope. Not even. I guess you did lose a couple SCVs. Well, just one. I was worried because, you know, double Hellion production... Maybe she would need an extra supply depot, but apparently not. She's good. She's fine. She got the Widow Mine out as well to protect her against any follow-up stalker that could have come across the map. Now transferring off the factory and getting a Raven, it looks like here from the Oh no, she's gonna be a Banshee. Okay. Don't see many Banshees in like everyday play, I would say. In professional play, you see it every now and again. And it does make its rounds through the meta. Going back into Banshees, going out of Banshees. And it's funny because like most of the time you see Banshees in this matchup, they seem to do something. Even if it doesn't, like the first one doesn't do something, the second and third one seem to. But I was not expecting that. I was expecting some very standard defensive macro play, so I was guessing a Raven. Not so. Seems like her build is pretty on point though. She's getting up to those 3 barracks. Be able to start combat shields as well as stim. And the Banshees will not only provide some potential damage to the probe line, they will also force these stalkers to stay back at home to deal with them. The Hellions have tried their best to make it through, but as you can see, they're already injured. One dies, the other one gets very weak. Bailey doesn't scout the 3rd Nexus, but can come back in here to do so. bit greedy of PSevenGab to do this without any more information on what her opponent is doing. I mean, there could have been a tech lab on that factory producing tanks and Banshees as well. You move across the map, a couple of SCVs, a couple of Marines, and your fast third's in for a bad time. But luckily for her, that's not what's happening. The Observer is going to come through the middle of the map and kind of breathe a sigh of relief as it sees nothing right now. And then once it makes its way over here, we'll be like, oh, okay, that's what it's doing. But only after the Banshee already reveals itself. Funnily enough, decloaking as she runs in there. And recloaking, there we go. The Observer went across the map to get some safety in terms of, hey, is she pushing me or not? Is not providing any safety to these probes. Second one does pop out though in the nick of time, very close to the edge as well. Chronoed, of course, and the Banshee only grabs 6 kills, but that's really not that bad for a single Banshee. If the second one gets maybe like 4 kills, I'd say that's kind of worth 2 Banshees and Cloak. If it gets nothing, then I don't know. It looks like PSevenGab is on top of things. Also takes care of the Hellion run by. That would not have done very much more damage, but could have. 2 probes will lose their lives, and a third one will, so okay. 9 for 2 Banshees, it's still okay. Keep in mind that she also has taken absolutely no damage from any Blink Stalker harassment. It's not a very good map for Blink Stalker jump-ins, but you can still poke and prod to the front. She was really quite safe against that with a bunker though too, so she's been able to do her macro build to its almost perfect build order. Like, it'd be close. Third CC's on the way, now adding on those 2 more barracks. She is going into a macro game. PSevenGab has been trying to produce triple probes through the probe harassment, but with 9 going down, she's only 4 above Deity. And Deity should be going back into SCV production as her third finishes up, so she has some to transfer over. Really nice builds from both players. The Stalkers being caught by surprise. Marauder Slow is done, and 2 more looking to lose their lives potentially. I mean, a second stim here is actually quite damaging to the Terran army, but if you think you can grab those 2 Stalkers, it's probably worth it. Only grabs the last one. That's still 3 down. Oh, and I guess 11 probes went down in total? Like the Reaper did some earlier? Obviously, she knows that there is an attack on the way. What does she actually have to defend against it? Charge is done. She's up to 6 gateways. Not quite enough, though. For the style that she's doing, I would say that you want to go back up to it. You want to go up to at least 8, if not 9 or even 10, right? This 3-gas style. That could be a bit of a concern, but Widowmine's not being burrowed. Late stim as well, late micro. And the Widowmine's gonna get 1 shot. Not such a bad shot. Weakens a lot of those units. Zealots are now being taken care of. And the Immortal's gonna be focus fired, but unfortunately it is still taking down a lot of Marauders down with it. Stalkers still alive here. Maybe would chase after the Medivacs, get 1 last Marauder. And they're scared away by the single Widowmine. The blink on the cooldown, they can't actually tackle that. This all hit before 1-1 was done, so it was a pretty nice timing for Deity. If only she had been paying attention. If any extra Widowmine shot had gone off, especially on the actual Zealots, which is what they want to do, and she was microing from the get-go, then we could have seen a real tug-of-war where the lackluster gateway production could have been impactful, but as it is, it actually went okay. 1-1's done. Second Immortal's on the way, or replacement Immortal, I should say. It's going to be its 3rd in total. 4th Nexus is almost done. 2-2 starts up, but Deity's really not so far behind in the upgrades. 2-1 is about to finish up. Could be a lot worse, trust me. She does have her eyes on the future on the macro game. So it didn't just stall out on that 1-1 like some Terrans do. Second push is already ready to go. Still has that supply lead. It is a question of the amount of charge lots, I would say, and how much of a wraparound they get on the bio army. And of course, how many Widowmines get a good shot off here, which is really usually the discerning factor in whether or not this goes the Terrans way, the Protoss' way. Zealots are in the range of those Widowmines. Good attempt to pull it back there. Only loses 3 or 4 Zealots, but good to pull back on the Widowmines as well. A good save on the Medivac. Deity making some good choices. And PSevenGab's actually going to go for the fight here. She doesn't have her upgrades done. They're nowhere near done. 2-2 only halfway finished, as she's not quite chrono boosting them. Okay, she goes back on a chrono boost with them as I check. So only on 3 gases as well, so really it is all about powering through here with a bunch of Zealots. She's back up to 11 gateways, which is a much more comfortable number than that 6 that it was originally at. Also using excess minerals to go ahead and plant down some SAG defense. I do like that, but they should all be going into Zealots realistically. Not many ways you can spend your gas when you do this, but usually on stalkers, usually. Bio Army was caught a little out of position, but maybe it's actually PSevenGab has been caught out of position. Force Field's come through at the last second to help take out a couple more Marauders. Liberator does siege up, but can't help the bases. 4CC is killed, not canceled. Liberator here, not gonna be able to do too much help, and that actually might be good enough, though. That was 3 Liberators, not many of them doing a lot of damage. This one finally adding in something to the Zealot count, but it's more the lack of reinforcements. There they are now, but is it too late? Mike with the Marauders back. She's actually dealing with something else. I don't know exactly what, but her Marauders get sliced and diced by those Zealots. Widowmine's finally burrow. Only one of them actually goes off there. When the Zealots weren't being warped in, that started to kind of turn. It looks like she was microing a Liberator. Her Marauders definitely had more time to shine there. The charge had been used, and they still had a decent amount of health, but they just stood there. They just stood there and took all the damage. Their macro is still going strong, so she's rebuilt an army. She still has her Medivacs alive, and still a single Liberator. Nope, back up to 3 Liberators already. This single Liberator doing some more damage. They both traded out some SCVs here and there, but the Liberator has done more damage. PSevenGab down to 47 workers, trying to replace them, but it looks like she hasn't hotkeyed her 4th Nexus, only 3 probes at a time. And this big attack has not worked, and as the attack continues to fail, that's when the lack of technology really starts to become apparent for the Protoss. There is a weakness to this style of play, as many times as we think we've all died, to the overwhelming forces of the Zealots, but once again, not microing the bio, just sieging up the Liberators, but she doesn't care. I mean, she's not microing the bio, as they kind of got wrapped around as well, but she survived longer than I gave her credit to. That does maybe have to do with the upgrades not being so bad, as 3-3 is not quite halfway done, and PSevenGab just gonna go ahead and tap out, realizing that she had run out of steam. Very cool game from both parties, but special round of applause to Deity for keeping the macro going there to outlast PSevenGab's all-in. It was an all-in. Players don't have to remind to go to Europe. Stupid region swap bug. Deity named her European account Be Gentle. PSevenGab's map choice. She's thinking long and hard. Which map would most work with that style? She chooses Kairos. Kairos. We'll figure out soon enough if they're both one-trick ponies, or if they have some flexibility in this matchup. That's charge lot. Stalker attack can be quite brutal. It's kind of supposed to swamp the first attack a bit better than it did, and then really have quite a punishing follow-up. But even with Deity's kind of, miss on the micro, she didn't, plant those Widow Mines down and didn't micro her units back in that very first fight from the get-go. It still was pretty okay for her. And I think the Banshee is kind of messing up PSevenGab's timing, as well as the additional gateways not being quite ready to go kind of made that follow-up attack a little bit later, a little bit easier to deal with. I actually feel like there was a couple moments there where Deity was being a little too aggressive, a little too confident moving back onto the map, but I would say that more so than just like her decision making or PSevenGab's decision making, it was the macro of the Terran player that really shined through. Because it's not just the amount of bio that a Terran player has that you're paying attention to say like, oh, their macro is good or their macro is bad. It's those miscellaneous units. I say miscellaneous like they're not important. They are, but you know, everyone looks at the bio. It's the factory and starport production that is most commonly forgotten about. And that makes sense, right? Like, you're not spamming it as often as barracks, so it's not the habit that you figure out first, you adopt first when you turn over to the Terran, when we force you to come over to our side. It's also later on your whatever production cycle you use. If it's the tab method, then you have to barracks, tab, factory, tab, starport. Can create a lot of problems with microing and producing the wrong units if you do that. And then if you're using the hotkey method, like 5, 6, 7, for all the different buildings, it's still the farthest to reach, right? So it just makes a lot of sense as to why we see macro kind of falter on those things specifically. And I'd say that's kind of like a high diamond, low masters problem, to be very general here, of course. But if you can see that they not only have a decent amount of bio, but they always have Widow Mines to burrow, and they always have medevacs, and because they always have medevacs, they always have the option to go over to Liberators, so they actually have Liberators at a decent time. That's when you can say the macro was actually very good, and one of the reasons that Deity probably won. She had medevacs, she had Widow Mines, and she had Liberators, which, you know, definitely didn't do their best in some of those initial fights around her 3rd or 4th base. It was a third. But still ended up helping some amounts, or were something that PSevenGab had to target fire because she needed to take them out of the fight. So I was truly impressed. But that's been Deity, actually. She is just a pretty good macro player. She's like what I want to be when I grow up as a Terran player. Just kidding. But actually not yeah, only kind of. Back when I was taking ladders super seriously and I was up to like 51, almost 5200 MMR was like my peak, I was probably as good or even a little bit better, but now she's definitely better than I am. And she is going to be on the worst ping here. Now, I must emphasize that no one's really having the best time on the ping, I would guess. Maybe Deity's not having the worst, you know, kind of depends on where you are, but also just how fast your internet connection is and all that. Maybe it's not the worst thing. But maybe it is. But PSevenGab also is not actually like European. I don't actually know where she is, but she, in terms of how close is the closest server, the European one would be for her. But it's still not ideal. She's had a ton of internet problems, so it's still preferable for sure. She's very happy it's going to be on her advantage, her home turf, but. I don't know if it's going to be the true decider of whether or not this works or not. We are getting a very micro-focused build coming out here. Very aggressive opener, but it looks like Deity does have the mix-ins here, right? She's not just like a vanilla chocolate strawberry person at, oh my god, Coldstone, that's what it is, at Coldstone. She actually gets the mix-ins. She actually gets like the Reese's cups in there and the M&Ms and like some brownies or something. She's actually changing things up. She's going for a Cyclone with the Cyclone upgrade. And that is mech right there. That is 2 factories. So very, very cool stuff. Now, if she was home defensively, knowing this attack was on the way, I would say that she was in a better spot because she can micro the Cyclones back and kind of abandon ship to the high ground until her count of mech units gets higher and higher. Unfortunately, she doesn't quite realize what's going on here. This Reaper's going to scout a suspicious second gateway and like a very late robo, but are the wheels quite turning yet? I don't think so. She gets caught by surprise, and Cyclones are terrible when they're caught by surprise. And this is when the opening looks terrible, actually, is when those Cyclones are caught like that, and it takes forever to get another Cyclone out. Things are already looking good for PSevenGab, and they might already be heading back to the North American server. Yeah, so this is when the Cyclone looks good, as I was saying, right? If you can actually retreat up to your high ground, build up your Cyclone count, and your Widow Mines to protect them, then you got a chance, but yeah, GG. The Wood of Mines would also being reactored out would basically guarantee one hit, one stalker, right? So you could eventually try and make your way down, but if you're caught by surprise, then that build actually looks really terrible. That's exactly what happened. So back over to America as it is. Ugh, I just had a disturbing realization. Either, I think it's the real Avillo. Has me on his friends list. Ugh. Do do. PSevenGab's been in a decent number of finals, but I think she always asks if it's best of 5 or best of 3. All tied up 1-1. Both players showing an arsenal of builds. I'm very happy to see that. Deity, for the most part, does just do her standard 3cc and TVZ with slight variations against like Kyuubi. Maybe it's because she's facing someone that she considers a true threat. Maybe it's the extended series, best of 5 instead of best of 3. But she does tend to mix things up more so in these finals. But I wondered if, you know, maybe she was just like, okay, macro, macro, macro against Protoss, because I really had no idea what to expect from these two against each other's races. We already have two severely different games. One macro, macro, and all-in, yes, from PSevenGab, but one of those, like, really an all-in? Casters used the word too wrong. Blah, 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 blah. She had no intention of macroing out past the point of when she tapped out, right? She was going to go for the attack. If it didn't work, then she was going to peace out. But it was like still an 11-minute game. Last game, 2 cheeses. 2 builds that unscouted have a high chance of ending the game, if that's one of the go-to definitions of cheese. If PSevenGab was just going to try and play a macro game and she does not scout for the Cyclones, 1 shows up, bops a stalker, 2 show up, bop 3 stalkers, 3 show up, and she actually doesn't have a lot of stalkers because you don't have a lot of production that early as a Protoss player. It can be very brutal, but the opposite happened first. So Deity going to be a little more on point about the Reaper scouting, I believe. SCV scouts have been a norm for her. But they've scouted, they're not the timing to scout for anything suspicious off of 2 base. They're the timing to scout for something suspicious off of 1. So you need to get that Reaper back in there and start trying to figure out what's weird. And sometimes it's just really not that possible. Plenty of maps that have Reaper hop-up spots are easily blocked, such as Cyber Forest, and then otherwise they could be very good with their Stalker and Adept usage. And I'm not sure exactly which one of those happened last game, but something made Deity just throw that Reaper back home and wait for the Cyclone, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it would have been the difference of like, hey, something's weird, and let me just do my thing. Twilight Council first, but that is norm for Blink Stalker opener. Reaper does get taken out. That's a little scary. It scouts the Twilight Council, right? Yeah, or the SCP did. I'm not sure which one. No, the Reaper did. Okay, the Reaper scouts it, and that did its job. But you still want to be able to get back in there in case they are going to do something weird, like a Dark Shrine. You get back in there, see no blink started or charge, I suppose, if they're doing a charge at all in. And your mind will immediately go to Dark Shrine. If you go back in there and you see that the gases are being taken out of, well, then maybe start thinking about something else. Like, there's things to see past that Reaper dying that quickly. And if Deity's not going to go for any type of Widow Mine drop, which she's not, she's going for a 3-racks build here, then she's not going to be able to know that. And I believe that Sweet Grief is trying to go for a DT build. There we go, but was waiting for the pylon to finish. So that's something that the Reaper would have been able to get back in and hopefully scout. Granted, some Protoss players are really good about faking an upgrade when they see a Reaper incoming, but it's something, right? And you also would see an additional 2 gateways instead of this quick of a robo if it was Blink. So it just... Unless the Protoss was scared of you doing something, I suppose, then maybe they would get the robo first. But anyways... Nothing scouting that is my point, and nothing can scout that except a scan. And scans are great, they are still kind of hit or miss. I mean, if you scan in the natural hoping to see their army composition or their gas timings, that might not be enough information. So hopefully, for any Deity fans out there, she saves a scan around 5 minutes. That's the suggestion here, guys. If you're a Terran player and you're like, DTs are bullshit, if I don't go for a Raven build, I always die for them. Luckily for you, a Raven actually does pop out for a 5-minute DT timing. But if you don't do a Raven, then you gotta start getting into the habit of saving at least 1 scan, basically right now, around this time. That'll save you from the absolute catastrophe that is a surprise DT, although you might still take damage. Deity's gonna go for the attack, which is gonna complicate things just in terms of where do you warp in, defensively or offensively. We have the Warp Prism ready to go, already 1 DT here. She could slow warp into DT from there as well. Here on the screen, but she does not. Warp Prism scouts the oncoming attack because at the same time I'm talking about Deity not scouting P7Gab, the reverse is also true. She did not know about this 3-racks. Stim is not quite down though, it's a bit of a mistiming, and DTs are really quite good at taking care of the Marauders. But this is very helpful because it told her there's DTs. Now she can get Engineering Bay, now she can get, well, she already has one, she has +1 on the way, right? And now it's going to go into missile turrets. So this actually ended up going okay for Deity on her timing. She won't be able to escape unless she stims more times, and then, well, she might just be dead anyways. But she knows about the DTs, and that is far preferable to just sitting back and having to scan, run out of scans, and then take damage. She even takes care of all the DTs, which is really a big mistake there from P7Gab. Combat shields will finish up pretty quickly here, which is important against DTs. We're gonna have Starport being very, very late, which is the sucky thing against the DTs. You don't have Medivacs, you don't have access to a Raven, so any push that you would want to do as a follow-up is very risky. But the Medivacs also, in case they do some type of charge lot all-in follow-up, DT Blink all-in follow-up, you do want Medivacs. And they are not gonna be coming here anytime soon. You also want Widow Mines, and it's a bit of a choice. You could leave your reactor on the factory, or you could swap it off, and she's gonna swap it off. She has no idea that there's a charge all in on the way because she never got into that main base. It looks like she sorted with something to see 3 gateways, but she is not behind that wall. She's not up the ramp. The charge lots will be coming in here, but are their numbers high enough? Missile turrets are here to actually deflect this, and they actually grab the Warp Prism. Who expects 2 missile turrets like that? But Deity taking no chances against some bullshit DT stuff, and that is a very small army that she can now take on. If that has the 3rd Archon and 7 more charge lots, a bit of a different story, especially with the Warp Prism microing, but as it is, that is an easy pick off there for Deity, and she has taken absolute control of this game. Gonna grab that last Archon. Oh my god, so close. It's actually into its whole health. That doesn't happen too often. but without the medevacs, the army has to be very careful about stimming in here. Suddenly you're all down to the red, 7 charge lots come up on you, and they one-shot you with just the initial 8 damage. Doesn't feel so good. You see that PSevenGab is just all in on the Zealot idea, and she just... no production whatsoever except for the War Prism and now all those Zealots, but Deity having all the production and that +1 finish a while ago, has all of her upgrades for her units. Her medevacs are dry, and she is finding herself a little bit supply blocked just now, but that is a pretty large army. She has taken out most of the splash, but dealing with those Archons, this one's going to be pretty much dead if it moves in right now, and she really has to worry about those Zealots. Some sentries being warped in instead of more Archons. We'll see if that works out there. It could just make more of a choke for the Zealots to go through. We'll see. Stim is had, and there's the choke. Oh, well, there's a better force field. No lift up on the medevacs quite yet. No, she's not going to bother. The SCVs have been pulled, but the force fields are not working against the Zealots. This is what I was talking about. Those Zealots initially chopped up some Marauder salad, but that was... then it was... they couldn't even do anything. They actually could not even touch the bio. Zealots are going to do well against the SCVs, so 9 of them are going to lose their lives, but... at the cost of the entire army, actually more. Hold on here, Zealots on the main base, making that double the 9 SCVs lost, and then some. 20 SCVs lost. War Prism looking to go down, however, very, very low. Any Marines try to catch it? Oh, so close it so far. And no Viking in production. Sentries, oh no, Sentries, don't be a hero. Don't be a hero, Sentries. Don't be a hero. Okay. Oh boy, it looks like the War Prism was misclicked or something? Or was it recalled? It was recalled. That's still a very low War Prism, but she doesn't have the minerals to replace it. Deity takes a bit of an awkward start to this fight, but she knows her opponent is entirely all in. This SCV is trying to scout, I guess, for the proxies. She could see any proxies that are being used here, but obviously there's also a War Prism. Or they're scouting for... well, for third base. Okay, so that's the most important thing here. Scouting for a third base. If you see a third base, you know that their attack's not going to be coming in here. They're probably just going to be faking, hoping that you don't push into them. But with no third base, just defend, defend, defend. Now we have Widow Mines out. More medevacs have been healing up this army. And those Widow Mines are going to be pretty effective. A quick pullback tries to save half those Zealots, but another Widow Mine gets a lot of them, and that's all the Zealot fodder gone. Nothing but Archons left over, which, while it's still scary, are actually trapped behind the sentries, so not really that scary. Medevacs being mismicroed since they're out of juice. They can't do anything else, but the War Prism goes down, and these are the last Zealots going to appear here, and they're going to be hit by Widow Mines, so not very effective. GG. Deity with the hold. Does take game number 3. And now we go back to the European server. Beep bop, beep bop, beep bop. Hello. I didn't realize I had another cat here. Why didn't you guys warn me? Ooh, next map's gonna be Turbo Cruise. I see some people saying that after the loss of SCVs, Protoss could sit back and macro. D needs to expand. Nah, not so much. There's a chance that you can macro out of that if you're killing that many SCVs, because the Terran gets over-aggressive and doesn't micro correctly against the charge lots. But accounting for the mules, and it was still like a 30 SCV count, which is really not that bad. PSevenGab was not in a position to try and macro out with her lackluster technology. And still pretty small army supply, considering it was less than or equal to the Terran, not greater than. This could be the last game. We are on the European server, which will favor PSevenGab hopefully a little bit. This is the server which she won. But unfortunately, if she were to win this one, then we go back to NA, and that's when the whole starting on NA thing kind of, it's a little unfair. Initially, when the Banshee tournament was created, I imagined a lot of Americans signing up, North Americans signing up, as that was the preferred time. But also just, I don't know, guesswork. A little bit of bias as well, I suppose. I'm North American, so But it actually was a, you know, awfully good time zone for Europeans. They could have their Saturday to chill out and relax, and then at night win some money. And it ended up being too early for the West Coast Americans because, you know, gamer lifestyles, I suppose. So I pushed it back. Helped a little bit, but still a lot of domination from Europeans to a point where I would consider making it a European focused tournament. But that's for later. That's for if it ever gets taken up again, I suppose. No SCV scout this time, just now going for the SCV scout as she pulls an SCV off to deal with the probe. Probe goes back to see if the CC is actually down, maybe, kind of. Whoa, I feel like I'm zoomed out. That was weird. Maybe I'm so used to being zoomed out, this looks zoomed out. Trippy. SCV sees the Nexus. Gonna see the Semirex score only just now finishing. Just barely. Just barely not. Reaper catches the probe. A little bit of a mistiming there from P7Gab. Really know your Terran timings. You can try and get in there between the SCV going to scout or disengaging from your probe and the Reaper actually arriving, producing, or slash and hit the timing after the Reaper is halfway across the map and the reactor has started. But she lost the probe instead. It's a bit sad. Adept not gonna be able to chase down this Reaper. Only gets one shot when the shade finishes anyways, so it would have killed it. It is gonna be a Stargate. So different opener once again. P7Gab gonna try her best to hide that. Another Adept is on the way. This Adept finds the Reaper, but again, one shot won't kill it. Takes 3 shots to kill it, I believe. Another different build here from Deity, there we go. Them changing all their names on me is really, it's really, It's making this difficult. It's been casting on hard mode. Anyways, Deity going for a Widow Mine drop. Reaction Widow Mine drop, actually, so we might even see 2 medevacs for quadruple, quintuple. Widow Mine drop. Wait. Quadruple. Wait. What is 8? Quadruple. Quintuple is 5. I was gonna say, quintuple's 5. Sextuple, septuple, octuple. Oh, cool. Yeah, octopus. Doi. Maybe an octuple drop. Doesn't look to be that way. Maybe, yes. Well, she's producing more, but we're just gonna go up to 4. Okay. Never mind. And no second medevac either. But she does keep 1 at home, 3 in the medevac. Phoenix are there to defend. She did not get back there to scout that it's a Stargate. And no Oracle has appeared, nor would it have appeared quite yet, to tell her it is a Stargate. So the medevac will probably lose its life, but do the Widow Mines do any damage? Probes are pulled, 2 lose their lives. Third one, not gonna pop. You can try for another drop, at least in the main base, but not gonna happen. This is her first sight on the Phoenix. Oh, well, Widow Mines gets an Adept, damages the other 2. Only shields, though. Medevac does get taken out, as long with that third and final Widow Mine. So not a very effective drop, but at least she knows about the Phoenix now, which were, at the time, they were hidden. Now would be a good time to invest into a missile turret since you know they are really investing into Phoenix. This will be a continued problem throughout the game. So where against an Oracle, you could maybe just whip 1 Widow Mine and 4 Marines and just be like, yeah, you're not gonna come back in here except to revelation me. I was gonna say revelate me, but probably not how you're supposed to say that. Phoenix are going to be just always looking for opportunities to get into the mineral line, so you really usually want to go for a missile turret. But her engineering base had not yet started. She's going for double engineering base now. The RD5 SV is going down. It's pretty nice for P7Gab. Very different way of combating someone going for Phoenix, by the way. If they are going to invest into Phoenix, then they are probably going to go into Colossus. It's not unheard of to go into Phoenix into charge lots in Storm, I suppose, but obviously you don't really need to go into Blink after you get Phoenix. So they kind of cover that job of the Blink Stalkers in the early game, as well as cover the Colossus against Vikings in the later parts of the game and kind of make the Terran choose. Do I kill the Phoenix? Do I kill the Viking? Or the Colossus? It can be a very different style of play. Every attack you do as a Terran is also a little bit more committed because those medevacs will die. Maybe your army doesn't, but your medevacs die and they're quite expensive and a more rare resource. Third CC is done. Medevac looking like it's gonna be tapped. Nope, Phoenix decided not to go for it. Looks like she was back home macroing. Colossus is on the way. You will want to add on charge first, and then eventually later on Blink. Double upgrades as well pretty quickly. Usually it's like +1's done and then they add on a second forge, but basically going on the 1-1 double forge. Scan reveals the intention here. That's a nice scan. And we have to see what her decision is. With the third CC, if she doesn't lose any more workers, 43 is really not that great. It goes even lower. You would hope to have the economy to be able to produce 2 starports fairly quickly. Quadruple Vikings, but because she's taking so much damage, she probably can't afford it that quickly. So her options to directly deal with the army are a little limited right now. Channel Tastes and call them Protoss and Terran. I probably should. Check shows for Blink first, which, I mean, I'm gonna say is unnecessary. It's not like it's a stupid idea or something. Like, they still can be more useful, different types of anti-air, right? But I would say with the amount of Phoenix she's managed to save, because she hasn't lost any. Oh no, she lost 2. Oh, okay, I do remember some of them going down on the main. Still, I mean, 6... okay, well... Because the other problem is that not only do you not want to, you know, add on kind of the same idea here, like anti-air, anti-drops, that type of thing, by going for both, you also don't want to have to afford Blink Stalkers on top of the Colossus and now expensive double upgrades that she went for. Because Stalkers are more expensive than Zealots, who knew? They also aren't as tanky as Zealots are, so when you see Stalkers and a Colossus, if your Marauder count's high, you actually might take that fight. If you see 20 charge lots in a Colossus, you're like, well, hold on here. Anyways. Fight's gonna come in. Phoenix could have gone over the medevacs, but are a little late in doing so. Marines, though, getting chopped up by the Colossus beams, but all the fodder just gets blown away. The Colossus going down here, and, well, that's kind of the worry I had, but it just more had to do with the macro being off. 800 minerals in the bank, 700 gas. If those were Ain Stalkers, this could have been different. GG. Deity showing some serious prowess when it comes to TVP. Taking a 3-1 over P7Gab. Very nicely done. She will be the Banshee Queen this week.